Okay, so our next speaker, we have Dave, who will be talking to us about RxApp.
Sweet. All right, I'm Dave. As of next Monday, I work at Facebook. But I really love C#. It's really fun to program in, and so I do it for fun all the time. Anyway, so about 2 months ago, I was hanging out at my friend James' house. He does robots, and I was building a little demo app, and I decided what the world really needed was yet another MVVM framework. And so I built one. And there's a lot of code in this presentation. I'm probably going to skip over it. It's all on GitHub. You can find it there. So basically, it's a functional reactive framework. It's built upon Rx and immutable collections. You got a whole talk about that earlier, so you know why that's awesome. It has a couple unique properties to it. First and foremost, instead of exposing mutable data, everything is a message passing framework. So it has these Rx properties, which for people who are familiar with Rx, are basically behavior subjects. It has these Rx commands, which are very similar to iCommand. And in addition to that, it has a binding framework, so you can bind these properties to Android or iOS or Xamarin Forms. And it also has a really cool view model-based navigation framework. So your whole application can be in a PCL as opposed to view-based navigation. So I'll give some examples of that. And really the goal here is I want to build a truly testable application. I want to be able to run my whole app in a unit test. And with the exception of the presentation framework, which is at the very front end, I want to be able to basically test my whole application end-to-end. And this has some other benefits, like it simplifies concurrency, the stuff that happens behind the scenes in your app. You don't care where what threads that runs on. The framework takes care of making sure any updates to the UI happen on the main loop of the UI. And as I said, like the ideal is I want to write my application in a PCL. I want to dependency inject into that PCL any platform-specific code, and I want to be able to mock out those dependencies if I want to test my application, whatever. I want to be able to introspect the state of my application, so if there's, I want to be able to say, like, this page, open this page, and be able to understand where in the stack I am. And you don't get that visibility with like standard Android or iOS applications development. And I want to limit all my platform-specific code to the presentation layer. Like basically just, here's my application, bind it to these views. So if you look at the model for MVVM here, it's a little bit different than in other frameworks. In RxApp, view models are really thin. They're just collections of these reactive properties and reactive commands. They don't really have any logic. What the platform does is you tell it, for this type of view model, I want to create this type of view. I want to create this type of, for lack of a better term, a controller, and it hooks them up at runtime as these things get added to the navigation stack of your mobile application. And then, basically, it's purely message passing. There's no mutable state there. On the back end, you have pure functions, and these can hook up to like whatever you want: Academia, Actor, SQLite, HTTP services, whatever you're connecting to. So, I wanted to give kind of a quick example. It's not showing up so great on the screen, but this is a basic login dialog. You have a username, password, and a login button that you might have on an Android application. And so, give you an idea what these models will look like. We have the username, this is a property. We have the password, which is a property, and we have this command, which is like a button click, go do my login. And then we also have this observable of, it's a unit, which is an F# concept. Essentially, that's saying, hey, the login failed, show an error dialog to the user. On the flip side of this, the back end of the application seeing all these observables. So whenever the customer enters in a username, the backend can observe these changes. And what's interesting about Rx properties is that they always have the latest version of that property. So you can always subscribe to it and get a value immediately. So how do you bind these view models to your view? So this is an Android activity that's much simplified. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the view model, login button, and we're going to bind that to the login command. And so what this is doing is saying whenever I click the button, send an event out to my services saying to do the login. On the flip side, the command can say, hey, login's disabled, button, don't allow anyone to log in. And then we're also going to monitor text changes on the username text field and on the password text field. In a real application, you might actually throttle these a little bit so you're not creating strings all the time whenever a user enters in a single character into the field. But for this kind of just gives you a feel of what it looks like. And then finally, we're going to bind the view model login failed event to show a toast that says, hey, login failed. Show this toast to the customer saying login failed, etc. Okay. Another really cool part of the framework is that it has model-based navigation. So from your programming perspective, you see this observable navigation stack. And this is platform independent. You can run it in a unit test and say, basically a weighted, however you want to do it to test your application's flow within a unit test. And then what the platform does is on a per platform layer, it has this basically magic layer that allows you to bind that to the platform's navigation frameworks. And this is really powerful because most the UI platforms out there, like Android and iOS, use this view-based navigation, but it's completely untestable. Because it's testable, but you have to be running your application. This you can run in a unit test using NUnit or XUnit. It's really cool. So just give you an idea, like this is how you would build an application. It's an iObservable of navigation stack. You have this static creation function. You're defining initial state for your stack. We're defining it here. We're using this builder that allows you to build a navigation stack. We're going to register.
Okay, Dave, you got to wrap up.
Sweet. Okay, so anyway, this stuff's all on GitHub. If you go through it, that's the address. It's on NuGet. Supports Android, iOS, and Xamarin Forms. If you have any questions about it, hit me up.
Thank you very much, Dave. Sure.